Hi, in the last part of last session we have seen various characteristics of EAA, this including type and nature, magnitude, extent, timing, duration, uncertainty, reversibility and significance. We have already seen these aspects one by one. For example, type indicating positive or negative impact, nature indicating whether the impact is direct, indirect or cumulative impact, and in the case of magnitude, it actually indicating various levels of magnitude like low, moderate, high, and in the case of extent, it's actually indicating the spatial extent, whether it is local, regional, transboundary or global. And in the case of timing, it is indicating whether it's a short term, long term or a continuous activity, and duration indicating whether it is temporary or permanent, and reversibility, whether it is reversible or irreversible or significant or insignificant, etc. Now this is a graph showing the change in the environment due to various activities like project activity and the natural change in the environment without any project activity. So this horizontal line, lower one indicating the change in the environment without the project. So this is a natural process, and the graph is almost horizontal to the x-axis, almost parallel to the x-axis. But when a project is commissioned in a particular region, this graph shifts upward, and this upper graph actually showing the change in environment due to the project. So EA can be considered as the study of the angle between project induced change and natural change. It's a study of this angle. This angle is known as EA, study of this angle between the impact induced change or project induced change and natural change. Now we will move on to the global evolution of EAA. EAA actually started as early as 1950s. At that time, it was not prominent throughout the globe, but confined to certain geographic locations of the globe, particularly in North America, Europe and Japan. So that EAA, during that period, it was not a comprehensive EAA. It actually covered only certain special aspects like public safety and health. So during that period, whenever a project was there, so in order to get the EAA, special studies were conducted only on public safety and environmental health, or particularly human health, and separated documents were prepared by the EA team and submitted to the corresponding government agency. So one report for public safety and another report for health, and these were submitted to the corresponding departments, and finally they got the environmental clearance. However, during 1960s and the beginning of 1970s, environmental movements were active in various parts of the globe, and these movements were under the able leadership of famous personalities like Rachel Carson, Barbara Ward and Barry Commoner. So these environmental active groups were known as environmental groups. So these groups were active in various parts of the world, and these groups realized the importance of natural resources, and they understood that these natural resources are very limited, so we have to use it very judiciously for the present generation as well as for the future generation. So understanding these things, this group want to apply pressure on various governments, different parts of the globe, and they became known as pressure groups, and they actually shown keen interest to actively participate in the government planning process. But during this period only, two aspects of EAA were considered. One is engineering aspects and the other one economics aspects. No environmental factor they to take into consideration. Two aspects, engineering and economics aspects were considered. So it is known as 2E. Only 2 E's were there during that particular period. However, the first comprehensive environment impact assessment came into force in the world was in USA on January 1st, 1970. The first comprehensive EAA covering various aspects of environment impact assessment. The full coverage EAA came into force in USA. So this particular EAA is known as National Environmental Policy Act. Abbreviation is known as NEPA, NEPA. NEPA. This NEPA is considered as the Magna Carta for the environment because this was the first document developed in the world to study a comprehensive EAA. So it's known as the Magna Carta for the environment. So while preparing this particular comprehensive EAA, 3 aspects were covered, it including engineering, economics and environment. So up to that particular period, only 2 aspects were covered, engineering and economics. Now one more E is also there, environment. So 3 E's were covered under this comprehensive EAA program. So following this NEPA program or NEPA comprehensive EAA, many countries in the world adopted this EAA program, and this included developed countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand. However, in continuation of this one, some of the developing nations also developed their own EAA program, particularly countries like Colombia and Philippines. Philippines is a poor country during that period, and it also developed an EAA. However, in the early 1980s, over 75 countries have adopted EAA legislations, and even in 1989, World Bank adopted EAA as a mandatory for various development projects. So if you want to get, various countries want to get funding from World Bank, they should conduct EAA. So EAA become automatically more popular towards the end of 1980s. Now each country developed their own EAA depending upon the political and administrative setup of the country. So this environmental legislation for each country as a separate name depending upon that particular country. For example, if you take Australia, the environmental legislation of or the EAA provision of Australia is known as EPBC Act. EPBC Act, that means Environment Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act. When we come to Canada, it is known as Canadian Environmental Assessment Act, CEAA. In the case of European Union, it is known as EAA Directive. When we come to New Zealand, it is known as Environmental Protection and Enhancement Procedures. When we come to India, EAA in India, so far we have seen the global evolution of EAA. So if we look into the evolution of EAA in India, we can see that in India, the EAA started with the impact assessment of river valley projects during 1978-1979. So you may remember Silent Valley issue in Kerala, but Palakkad region. So this is in connection with the river valley project. So in connection with the Silent Valley, India developed this EAA program. In continuation of that Silent Valley agitation, a ministry was formed, Ministry of Environment and Forest, known as MOEF, started in 1980. So it's actually provided all sort of monitoring programs in connection with the EAA in India. Before starting the MOEF, India actually has a number of other well-known acts, very old acts are available here. Some of the important acts include Wildlife Protection Act 1972, Water Act 1974, Air Act 1981. So these three acts were there before the EAA starting in India. Then when we come to the environmental legislation in India, similar to other countries, India also developed an environmental legislation, and this legislation in India, it is known as Environmental Protection Act, EPA. It was formed in 1986. So this you should remember, learn by heart the environmental legislation in India, EPA 1986. So as per this act, EPA 1986, an administrative requirement is needed for some of the selected 29 categories of developmental projects. And the responsible body of EAA, that means EAA assessment, India is a Central Pollution Control Board, but the entire monitoring thing is governed by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So Pollution Control Board, we have Central Pollution Control Board and State Pollution Control Board. So they are actually coordinating the environmental impact assessment programs for various development projects in India. Now, in continuation of our Environmental Protection Act 1986, Government of India developed the EAA notification in 1994. So the second important environmental legislation in connection with EAA in India is EAA notification 1994. So as a result of this notification, the project proponent has to submit so many documents to the Ministry of Environment and Forest for the clearance, environmental clearance regarding the fate of a particular project. So the documents mainly including application form, questionnaire, a duly filled questionnaire, then the environmental impact assessment report, then the public hearing proceedings, NOC from PCB, etc. These documents should be submitted to the Ministry of Environment and Forest. At the ministry level, 5 multidisciplinary expert teams are available. These five teams are there in 5 different areas like industry, one area, that thermal power another area, river valley another area, infrastructure another area, and the last one miscellaneous category. All the remaining other development projects coming under miscellaneous category. So when the proponent or the project, the person who is proposing the project, when he submit all these documents to the MOF, first of all it will be going to the technical staff of the MOF. The technical staff will go through the technical aspects of this document submitted. Once it is okay, once it is actually contain all the required documents, then it will be submitted before the expert committee, any one of the 5 expert committee, depending upon the type of project. Then the committee will evaluate the project from a scientific and technical point of view, and finally make a recommendation for approval or rejection. So that is the expert committee cannot finalize the fate of the project. It will only make recommendation to the authority. Authority is actually the Ministry of Environment and Forest. That is the final authority. We will learn all these things later. So I am just giving you some of the glimpse of the important activities. Then in continuation of this one, EAA notification 1994, there was an amendment to EAA notification 1994. This amendment was done in 1997. The important thing in this amendment to EAA notification in 1997 is that public hearing is mandatory. So without conducting public hearing, without addressing the concern of the local people in the particular project area, it is not possible to finalize the environmental assessment report. So public hearing is mandatory. It has to be conducted in a proper manner that we will learn later. So public get a very important role in the environmental assessment program. One is this public hearing program. Again, in continuation of the amendment to 1997, the EAA notification was amended in 2006 and again in 2009. The important aspect of EIA notification in 2006 is that all the development projects in India were categorized into two broad category, category A and category B. Category A means all the development projects get clearance from A category projects should get clearance from central government. That means from the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Government of India. So this actually classification into A and B is based on the type of the project and the size of the project. If the project is big one, clearance from central government is required. So Government of India gave a table showing the types of project and the categories of project. So A category to project get clearance from central government, Government of India, from the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So at the ministry level, there is a expert appraisal committee. So government formed an expert appraisal committee. Its abbreviation is known as EAC, EAC. So the expert appraisal committee will go through the report, the project documents, and they make recommendations regarding the fate of the project to the MOEF, and finally MOEF will give the decision regarding the fate of the project, whether it will be approved or rejected. Okay, that is the condition of the A category project. Then as per the 2006 notification, we have the second category, B category project. B category project means it should get clearance from the state government. Some of the projects may be small projects and some of the projects are categorized under B. So state government, clearance from the state government. So in the B also we have two subcategories, B1 and B2. B1 means require EIA. B1 means require EIA, and B2 means EIA is not required. There are some small projects like a check dam or much smaller one without much impact on environment, and since it's a very small project, the proponent can get a permission from the government without conducting the EIA. So those projects we consider it as B2. So project. So generally we can say that there are two categories of project, A and category B category. A get clearance from central government, B get clearance from state government. So under B we have B1 and B2. B1 require EIA clearance from state government. Similar to the central government has a expert appraisal committee, we call it as EAC. Similar to the central government, at the state level also we have a expert appraisal committee. We call it as state level expert appraisal committee, or SEAC. SEAC. So you will learn all these things later. Anyway, among the projects, A and B1 category projects require EIA assessment and clearance from either central government or state government. That's the speciality of EIA notification 2006. When we come to the EIA notification 2009, again some modifications are there. Environmental clearance will be given on a time-bound manner. That means once you submit the documents to the either central government or state government, it will not stay there for a long period of time. There is a time limit for each and every activity. For example, when a proponent submits a first request to the Ministry of Environment and Forest for willingness to do a particular project, the ministry will give the terms of reference. We call it as TOR, T-O-R. What are the parameters to be monitored? So these terms of reference will be submitted to the EIA team within 60 days. That means within 2 months you will get the modalities for the EIA program. Then based on the modalities given by the ministry, either at the central level or state level, the proponent can prepare the EIA, can prepare the environment impact statement, can prepare the environment management plan. So all these things he can do, and finally all the documents should be submitted to the central government or state level government depending upon the type of project. Then once he submit every document, evaluation will be done within 60 days. That's a specialty. So there is a time limit for each and every activity. The expert committee will evaluate in 2 months' time. So then the decision of the expert committee, the recommendation of the expert committee will be handed over to the final authority, that is the central government or MOEF at the central level or the concerned department at the state level. And the final decision will be taken within 40 days. So there is again another time limit. So again, within 3 to 5 months, fate of the project can be known. It will not stay in the ministry or in the government level for a long period of time. So a time-bound program or time limit program is there in the EA notification 2009. So that's all this session. Thank you.